I think we're a couple minutes in, so we'll go ahead and get started, and those joining a little late will get caught up. But yeah, looks like many are in. So welcome to today's webinar. Our topic today is how to enhance contact center reporting by integrating 3CLogic with ServiceNow. My name is Tucker Delaney-Wynn, and I'm a member of the marketing team at 3CLogic, and I'll be moderating today's webinar. A few housekeeping items just to say up at the top. This session will be recorded, so you'll be able to revisit anytime, get the details you missed, watch your favorite replays, or share with colleagues. So you'll receive an email with that recording tomorrow. And we will also have a Q&A at the end of this session. So as we're going through today, please jot down any questions that come up for you. You can add them to our question and answer box on the screen, and we will make sure to address those at the end. So without further ado, let's start by meeting today's guests. So we're very lucky today to have an expert both from 3CLogic and ServiceNow with us. What better way to learn how these platforms integrate than from hearing from both sides? So with us today, we have Reuven Rosenthal, Solutions Engineer at 3CLogic, and Paul McConnon, Senior Director of Solution Consulting at ServiceNow. I'd love for you both to introduce yourselves and your companies. Paul, let's start with you.
Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us today. My name is Paul McConnon from ServiceNow, and I manage a team of solution consultants, and we're really focused on our customer workflows side of the house. So I've worked in the customer service software space for about the last 10 or so years and meeting a lot of customers like yourselves. But before that, I sat on the other side of the table and worked in contact centers handling customer service inquiries. So this topic around reporting is really close to my heart. So love meeting with customers and helping them find ways to digitize some of their complex workflows. So thanks again for joining us today, and look forward to sharing some of these insights with you. Reuven, over to you.
Thanks, Paul. So I've been working with ServiceNow for a couple of years now. Was, I guess, a certified app developer, worked as a development lead for quite a few ServiceNow implementations. These days, I demonstrate a lot of use cases integrating 3CLogic with ServiceNow. So reporting is always top of the mind for people, really organizations of every business vertical. So making sure they have all their key KPIs in one place. And so I sort of help make that happen. So that's where my background.
Awesome. Thank you, Reuven and Paul. And I'm so excited to have you both because I think, as you both just demonstrated, you each have such deep expertise with customer experience, but in different areas. Reuven on the development side, getting into the nitty-gritty of implementations, and then Paul having that experience managing contact centers and taking that really high-level CX perspective is great. So I think, speaking of perspective, let's give our audience some and just talk a little bit about why contact center reporting is so critical. I think just asking that question, especially when it comes to ServiceNow, is so important. So let's dive into a couple of the biggest reasons why. So in terms of holistic contact center reporting, that's really going to allow you to identify trend performance over time, schedule the right number of agents at the right times, which if you don't have good reporting in place can be very difficult to do. Help you generate accurate forecasts and also monitor agent performance. And then these last two, I think, really get at the heart of it, gaining a complete view of contact center health, and then also seeing that complete picture of the customer experience. And I think it's that complete picture, both from an operations standpoint and a customer experience perspective, that can really be a game changer. So definitely keep those in mind as you're watching. And of course, the reality is that a lot of companies are struggling to get that complete picture. They know it's possible and they know they need it, but there are obstacles in the way. So let's take a look at a couple of those obstacles. So the first one is probably no surprise, but a big challenge many companies face is just having too many tools that don't integrate. We see here that 52% of contact center leaders cite disconnected tools as their top pain point. And Reuven, I know you have some firsthand experience with this. So can you share an example with us of just what having too many disconnected tools actually looks like and what kinds of problems it can lead to?
Yeah, happy to. So one example we hear about quite a bit, ServiceNow has a great case management tool, and oftentimes, a case gets closed and we send out those satisfaction surveys to the customer. How was your experience? It doesn't always go well, right? So let's say someone responds on their survey. They say, hey, the service was fine, but when I called in, the agent was pretty rude. And so, and for that reason, I'm not giving the best score here. And in your traditional contact center ticketing system setup, you're kind of left with a situation where you have to go and find the timestamp of that case, find in a separate system, look for timestamps of different calls, try to do some matching, and really you're just making your best guess. And honestly, that can be quite time consuming. And so having everything integrated in one place so I can see my case data side by side with my call data, so that when that survey comes in, if I'm a supervisor, I can pinpoint that exact interaction really easily for review. So it's just one of those things that, having all of those things talking together really helps the life of the supervisor.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Ruben. And I think that, like you said, seeing that side-by-side view, definitely something we'll see today, just making it worlds easier, helping save a ton of time. So that's great. All right, so let's look at that other obstacle, data silos clouding your visibility. 80% of business leaders struggling to unify real-time and historical data. And Paul, I know this is an issue that is near and dear to you. Can you tell us just more about this?
Yeah, no, it's something I saw when I was working in contact centers, but even in my role now as I meet with customers, right? So I think in our modern day, it's not that we have a shortage of data. In fact, the probably issue is that we have too much data. We've got data in different places in those silos, like we talked about in the previous slide, right? And when you have your data in all these different places, what you really have a shortage is actionable insights, right? So what can I do with all this data? We don't have enough time in the day to go through the data that's in these different places. But and traditionally, what I would see, here and before is having that operational data is not captured in the same place where you have that customer experience data. So I think what you'll see today here, what's exciting about this integration is that you get those two things together. You have the operational data you typically get with telephony, but then you have the customer experience data that you'll get from a solution like ServiceNow all in one place. So you can get that complete picture of what's actually happening.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Paul. Yeah, I think that's so critical. Having those two elements together, it really is a game changer. So that'll be great to see. So thank you both for covering those problems. And now let's talk solutions, how we can kind of effectively solve for that. So really, when we're talking solutions, we're talking ServiceNow and 3CLogic, as Paul and Ruben have just noted. I think linking that real-time call data with historical data that's already in ServiceNow, that's what we're going to show you today. So just in terms of talking about reporting with 3CLogic and ServiceNow, obviously, if your organization is leveraging ServiceNow, you already know how amazing it is for reporting and analytics, giving you insights into customer data, reports, KPIs, dashboards, and more. And for many organizations, it is the single source of truth. But there is that missing puzzle piece of real-time data from your call centers that Paul was just hitting on. And weaving that into ServiceNow is so essential for getting that next level of reporting. And that's where 3CLogic comes in, integrating your call data directly into ServiceNow so that you're not looking in multiple places for customer data. You're empowering supervisors to take better, faster actions, and you're revealing opportunities both to identify bottlenecks in the current system and then improve performance. So with that, I'm going to let Paul, our ServiceNow expert, step in and talk through the ServiceNow solutions we'll be exploring today. Paul, over to you.
Yeah, so there's really three elements of ServiceNow that we're going to be talking about specifically in our reporting capabilities. So you'll see some examples here. First, of our standard ServiceNow reporting. So that's part of our CSM standard package. That's part of that. So as part of that, you'll get, those are what you expect, right? You get access to dozens of pre-built reports and dashboards. These are things that help you track and monitor. Think of your operational KPIs. You can do that all in real time. So what's great about this, and you'll see this today, it's a really easy to use reporting interface. So it'll let people like your supervisors who are curious about what's going on quickly build and gather the data they need to figure out what's happening in the contact center. The other element you'll see today is what we call our performance analytics. And that's available in our CSM Pro package. And performance analytics sort of takes it up a level. So this allows you to monitor performance, but also identify areas for improvement and detect those bottlenecks and those trends over time, right? So you'll see that in our example. This really allows you as a service owner to, like I said, to see those trends, to drive that continuous improvement that's critical in a service organization. And then finally, you'll see a little element of our workforce optimization capabilities. So that's available in our CSM Enterprise package. And what that does is it takes everything we talked about before in the standard and the performance analytics reporting, but it gives you really that high-level management overview of your team and your agent status in real time. It helps you pinpoint things like what skills are required from my team to really maximize the productivity of your entire organization. You can even model, and you'll see this, sort of demand scenarios to figure out what's the scheduling impact of the types of calls that I'm getting. And it allows you to make some of those staffing decisions, maybe to preempt the next surge. And you'll see that in the example that Reuven shows you through there. So those are three high levels, sort of three explanations of the three types of reporting that are available within ServiceNow that you'll see today.
Perfect. Thank you, Paul, for walking us through that. And I think, as you mentioned, we'll kind of be going through each of those. So that'll be exciting to see. And it's good to have that context up front. So we're now going to get into our demo, and I'll pass it over to Reuven, who will introduce you to our contact center supervisor of the day and dive into the demo.
Absolutely. Thanks, Tucker. So the example we're going to show today, we just want to set the stage for our demo. We have a supervisor for the contact center. His name is Richard. He works for Boxeo, which is a logistics management company. So he's taking calls regarding, different shipments, the different softwares that this company might manage, and sort of taking inquiries from all over the organization. So he wants to make sure that everything is running smoothly, and that when there is any issues, he wants to be able to pinpoint them and act on them as quickly as possible, right? So it's really about identifying those issues and taking action. So noticing those upticks in the trends, looking at the forecasting to see, okay, are we heading in the right direction? Are things as expected? We want to make sure that by combining all of your different channels, let me make sure that, I'm getting the holistic picture. So I'm getting that phone data side by side with the case to make sure, nothing's getting missed. When I'm managing I'm trying to manage all of my agents and my cases. So this is just a quick preview of what we're going to see today. Just to once again set the stage. So Richard is actually going to notice that there is an irregularity when he's looking at the dashboards in ServiceNow. And so just by looking at a couple of those different reports, he's going to be able to see that there is a particular issue from something that happened at the organization recently that needs a potential escalation, and that could be affecting the contact center. So in order to escalate that issue, we're going to create a major case within ServiceNow to alert the development team. In this case, it's going to be an issue with a software patch that was rolled out over the weekend. We'll then take a look at ServiceNow's performance analytics to look at the different trends and KPIs to see how we're tracking on all of those. And then finally, we're going to take all of that insight that we just gained from the reporting and take action on it through the ServiceNow WFO tool. So looking at the forecasting, I'm going to be able to schedule the right engineers at the right times to cover the expected demand that the contact center is about to face. All right, so with that, let me transition here over to an example of that supervisor dashboard. And so you can see there's a couple of different reports that have been created here, all of which are going to help your supervisor out in terms of seeing how they're tracking for the day, for the week. And so just walking through each of these, I can see what are my total calls broken out by day. So typically I'm hovering between 20 and 40 calls on an average day. It might dip a little bit on the weekends. But as of yesterday and today, it looks like there's a spike here. So I got 56 calls on Monday, and then today I have 88 already. So definitely something that probably raises a bit of a red flag. And then I can also see the same kind of trend with my abandoned calls. So I can see, typically I have actually pretty strong abandoned call metric, but I had a couple yesterday, a little out of the ordinary, but maybe not quite a red flag. And then today it's really jumped, right? So once again, another flag. I can see other key metrics here by combining certain data points. I can see how much time my agents are spending on the phone on average. We can do things like seeing how if first call resolution is being met. So if a case is being closed and there's only one call associated to that case, then that's great. But it looks like we have a whole lot more red than green right now. Looks like we have 87% of calls are not being resolved on the first, 87% of cases are not being resolved on the first call versus just 12 for yes. So if you look at this pie chart here, now we really get into the nitty gritty of what might be causing this, right? I'm getting a couple calls in terms of service request, new feature request, outage, but looks like software and performance issue are my two biggest slices. And so this is something where if I was a supervisor, I'd probably want to click into this and sort of dive into this a bit further.
Before you go there, one thing I wanted to emphasize, right? So even though we're in ServiceNow, it's something we kind of take for granted, but we're in ServiceNow, but we've got all this rich telephony data right here, right? So typically you're having to go to the solution or the web portal of your telephony solution to go look up some of these operational data points, right? Like abandoned calls or total calls per day or average call length. But here, Reuven opened up as a supervisor, he's come to a single place. He's opened up ServiceNow, and the 3CLogic telephony data is right here in his dashboard. We're already starting to mingle it together, right? So we've got some of the operational data at the top, number of calls, but then you got things like the calls per case, right? Layered over with the call reasons. So the call reasons would be more, kind of customer experience information, but you've got the call data coming in from 3CLogic, all in one place, right in a dashboard inside of ServiceNow. So I know that we kind of take it for granted, Reuven and I, because we use the solution every day, but this is really powerful just to see this in one spot. As a supervisor who can, start their day inside of ServiceNow, they can right away see that something is off and they might need to take action.
Yep, that's a great point. And that all goes back to breaking down those silos. And really just being able to gain insights very quickly by having all of that data in one place. So, there's no jumping around, there's no merging different reports using different other additional tools. Leverage the power of ServiceNow, leverage what it already has out of the box to really try to make the life of the supervisor easier. So what I'll do here, I'm gonna, if I'm the supervisor, I want to take a look at, okay, why are 52% of my calls regarding software? So what I can do is actually click into this slice of the pie and see all of the individual cases that have been opened about this particular category. So I'm seeing here, okay, we have an issue with crashing, high latency on a supply chain app, freezing on application, potential memory leak on app. I'm quickly identifying that there's a trend here, right? And if you're a supervisor, you probably have a general awareness of sort of different rollouts happening throughout the company. Richard here knows that, okay, this supply chain app just had a big upgrade over the weekend. And so now, we're early in the week, it's Monday, Tuesday, and we're seeing more and more uptick of people reporting issues. So this is probably something that we need to escalate quickly, get it over to the development team so they can start identifying root cause. So I'll go ahead and what you can do in ServiceNow, which is really convenient, is I can take any kind of case, and if I feel the data in here is really strong, that we can pass this along to the development team and they can quickly use it as a foundation for their troubleshooting. I can actually propose this as a major case. So I'll go ahead and I'll click that button, and I can put in some work notes with, issue identified with the latest patch. And I can propose this. So now I've just escalated this, and the fact that we've marked this as a major case, the development team knows immediately, stop what they're doing, take a look at this major case, and see how they can start troubleshooting and figuring out this issue.
So powerful about that, Ruben, is once the potential major case is identified, right, by the frontline supervisor, the engineers can now group together all the associated cases, right? So if there are other cases, other customers impacted by this issue, they can group them together as one major case. Then as they update and come up with a resolution for that major case, it'll trickle down to all the cases that have been lumped together under the major case umbrella. So it's a really effective way to sort of get your arms around a big issue that impacts a lot of your customers at once.
And what's really nice when you have that tight integration between the contact center and ServiceNow, for example, 3CLogic, our conversation designer with our call flows, we can automatically detect that a major case has been identified in ServiceNow. And whenever someone calls, we can ask them, we can basically read out the description. Hey, are you calling about the memory leak on the app? Customer says, yes, I am. We can actually create a child case to that major case. So, you're tracking that major case, your developers are working on it. And additionally, whenever somebody calls in, you're marking that down so that, all the developers know exactly who is affected, how they're affected. And when they eventually resolve this case, it can trickle down to all of those child cases as well. All right, so now that we've escalated the case over to the dev team, everything is set up in terms of inbound calls. We're trying to sort of do some call deflection, some self-service there. As a supervisor, the next thing I'm going to want to do is see, okay, how is this affecting my bottom line? Let's do a deeper dive into the data and see how this issue has affected our key contact center KPIs and metrics. And because ultimately this is often what the desks are evaluated on, right? And so you can see there's several different KPIs that we're tracking here. The two that we're going to highlight for this is the average queue wait time, as well as the abandonment rate within the queues. So I can see that, I'm trending in the wrong direction for both. I have an average queue time of 10 minutes, abandonment rate of 29%, and I can deep dive into these as well. So if I go ahead and click into one of these indicators here, I can see, okay, I usually am trending between 1 and 3 minutes or so for the queue times, which is really solid. But, obviously this is not good, right? Now, all of a sudden, as of yesterday, we're all the way up at 9 minutes. And I can click on some forecasting as well to see, okay, this looks like it's just going to continue trending upwards until we do something about this. And so seeing these key KPIs, seeing how they're trending, and obviously the more data you have in your system, the more accurate these are going to be. And you can really start to hone in on this and drive this to make actionable change so that, things are more proactive. You don't want to be always having to be reacting to things within that contact center. If I head back over here, we also have this abandoned call percentage. It looks like this is heading up. This is always a key metric as well. You never want to have your abandoned percentage really higher than 5 to 10%. Once again, this has been spiking. You can see the 14% increase from yesterday. We're trending in a direction that's not favorable. So this, if I'm a contact center manager and I'm judged on these metrics, I want to make sure we're getting back down to here as quickly as possible. All right. So there's a bunch of other key KPIs 3CLogic is able to pass into ServiceNow as well. Everybody has their own set of metrics that they're tracking. So you can see things like your average hold time, how you're trending, how many calls are being transferred. So that's another leading indicator of, you have an issue brewing, is that for some reason your tier 1, maybe your tier 2 support is having to transfer a lot of their calls. So that's something that's a trend you want to be made aware of. I can see how my callbacks are doing, SLA percentages, occupancy rates of my different agents. And so we're passing a lot of rich contact center data back into ServiceNow so that you can leverage the power of all of the reporting tools with the standard reporting, the dashboards, performance analytics, identifying the trends. And it helps out with workforce optimization as well, which is a really neat new application that ServiceNow has rolled out as of the Quebec release, I believe. So let's go ahead and transition over to there. And so what we can see here is the WFO module. I can handle a lot of different aspects of the contact center in a really granular way. And I'm combining my data from all of my different channels to do so. So this really comes in handy in terms of using things like channel management, where you can see, I have chat, call, and case data all living in one place. And so if I'm a supervisor, I want to be tracking, we've come to an omni-channel world, right? Where people aren't just picking up the phone to reach your contact center. They might be logging into the website and using a chat bot. They might be sending in a text message to begin a chat with an agent. And so things are really moving in that digital direction. There's always going to be call as that last line of defense, of course, when you really need an issue fixed. But ultimately, you want a scenario where your agents can handle this kind of work in a number of different ways. And so this functionality really helps you do that. And it also helps by having this integration to do things like scheduling and forecasting, where I can schedule my team right from here and make sure that I have the right people at the right times, given the recent spikes in demand. And that's not just in call volume. This can be, self-service cases happening on the portal. This could be chats coming in. And so we can use formulas to actually say, hey, look, combine my call data with all my other digital channels so I can get a combined metric of that total demand. So if I take a look at a forecasting model here, just like before, and actually I can actually tighten this range pretty easily here. So let's say I just wanted to see the month of March. I can go ahead and filter that down. And you can see, look, I'm averaging about, 1 to 10 calls per hour normally. It's pretty interesting here. You can actually see, okay, what was my actual call volume at a particular hour versus, what was the forecasted. And you can see, okay, the spike has gone up quite a bit. I was forecasted only 6 calls, but I actually got 25 calls. And we now know that a big part of that reason is because of the software update that rolled out, causing a lot of people some headaches. And so we've identified that trend. And I, as a supervisor, now know what that demand looks like. So I can jump back to my team calendar, start calling people. So you can see, I have half of my tech support team scheduled for the morning. I have the other half scheduled for the afternoon and early evening. Looks like, call volume is really ramped up. I want people on this right away. I can pretty easily maneuver people's schedules. So rather than having this person start at 2 o'clock, let's say I wanted them to start at 10 a.m. And I'll move up their end time as well. I'll go ahead and save this. And you can see just like that, I'm able to adjust my support here, my support team, to make sure that I'm meeting the demand of, this recent influx of calls that the center is facing.
This is another thing too, just to have it all in one place, right? So by starting with that report to see the trend, digging into it, and then being able to then quickly adjust the schedule to get people to come in earlier, right? To do that all in one place. Usually this would involve jumping through a bunch of different systems with disparate data. It's all in one place so that the supervisor can take action, get some people to come in and really figure out when they should come in and how long they should work for.
And just like how we have that, silos of, oftentimes in the enterprise, there's a contact center, there's your ticketing system like ServiceNow. There's often a third silo, which is your WFO management. And so these are all integrations that you have to set up. You're setting up APIs, you're sending data all over the place. Having this all integrated into one place, you're not having to do a separate project to send all of your data to a third-party WFO tool. It's all going to be in one place. So you have that true, unified brain to make those decisions and really empower your supervisor to, have all the data that they need right at their fingertips.
My old life in contact centers, one of my biggest frustrations was that I would basically find out about issues the next day. I'd get these great reports. They were a day old, right? And I would look at them. Spreadsheets would get delivered to me every morning, and I would look through them and I would say, wow, this was a problem by 10 a.m. I wish I'd known about this at 10 a.m. because I could take an action. I could have brought more people in. I could have adjusted our schedule. We had the staff. They were just coming in at the wrong times of the day, right? So if I'd had that information in real time, then had the tools to take action, you could, like we talk about, like putting out the small fire before it becomes an inferno. You'd have that data to be able to do that. So hopefully you get an example here of how you could take action before this becomes a bigger issue.
Perfect. All right, and that about wraps up the live demo portion. Just to recap what you guys just saw, I'm going to throw this back into full screen here. Richard, he was on his regular supervisor dashboard that he looks at every day. He saw there was a spike in calls. He was able to identify, okay, looks like a big slice of this pie is related to software. He knew that there was a patch that was just rolled out. And so based off of that, he investigates those tickets. He discovers that most of the people are indeed calling about that same patch. So he escalates that ticket to the development team by making that a major case. He's then going into performance analytics, uncovering any trends, doing any forecasting to see, okay, what kind of staffing level am I going to need to do any potential damage control here? And once he's identified those trends, go into the ServiceNow workforce optimization to actually act on those, act on that insight, schedule the engineers and the tech support he needs to fix the problem, and proactively track how you're trending hour by hour after you've made those changes.
Well, that's great, Reuven. Thank you for taking us through that, and Paul, for your insights as well. I know we just went through a lot, and I think it all is super valuable. So, Paul, I'd love to just have you kind of walk us through these key takeaways from what we just saw.
Yeah, hopefully the couple things jumped out as we talked about this. So again, I think we emphasized this a few different ways, but having telephony data and that customer data all in one place allows you to make better, faster decisions, right? And it gives you that greater level of visibility. It's not just that, you've got those two sources of data in two places. By bringing them together, it gives you that higher level of visibility about what's actually going on. And then built into us now are those tools like the workforce optimization capabilities so that you can take action on this. Or even, as Reuven showed at the beginning, right, seeing the case data that was linked to the high levels of call volume allowed that supervisor to quickly create the major case, right? We don't want to just handle the call volume. quickly and accurately. We want to get to the source of the issue at the end of the day, right? Let's figure out why people are calling. Let's get the engineers to look at it, maybe, roll back that software patch that they pushed out over the weekend that was causing the spike in the first place. So get to the root cause by having the right actionable information in front of you, but then also be able to respond in real time to some of these upticks in call volume quickly and with the right people.
Great. Thank you, Paul. Yeah, I think that's amazing to see how all this comes together when you do start linking those different pieces of data. So Ruben, turning back to you, I mean, it's so great to see how this works. I think we'd love to move into kind of talking about what are more of the long-term benefits that people get out of that. I'd love for you and Paul to kind of take us through that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've been talking about this the whole way through, but it's just minimizes all of the headaches when you have everything in one place. I mean, ServiceNow is already a great repository for having that case data, chat data. They're pouring a lot of time and effort into doing a great job with those digital channels. But phone is always going to be there, and being able to just have that insight to provide an extra level of detail to provide for that customer experience, for that caller experience, and for the supervisors to be able to see that full visibility, seeing all those different KPIs, how they're trending, identifying spikes, being proactively aware of them, and then being able to actually act on them once they're noticed. It's really, that's ultimately how you drive a strong customer experience. It's not going to be the same challenge every day. It's always going to be something different, but having those tools in place to help you identify that so you can go out and make those changes and staff the right people to ultimately give your customers a frustration-free experience.
I'll point at something too, just one last bullet there, that bottom right one. So we didn't get into how those reports were built, but I think also something that's really important to think of the reporting tools that we saw here, especially the kind of the standard reporting that we saw. They're built in such a way that you do get those out of the box reports, but they're made in such a way that a supervisor, someone with pretty minimal experience with ServiceNow, can build those reports, right? So if they see something happening and they want to build a report, they can do that really quickly. The report building interface, which we didn't show today, makes it really easy and intuitive to create a report so that your supervisor doesn't have to wait maybe for an analyst to give them that data. This was also one of my frustrations where, as a supervisor, I had a hunch that something was off, but it was so difficult to build the reports, or maybe I didn't even have access to build those reports in some of the tools we were using. I have to put in a request to an analyst team, and they'd give me the information in a week or two if they ever got around to it. And by then, the issue had already passed. I was on to the next issue that I was trying to solve for. So by allowing the reporting tools to be easy to use, the supervisor who's got a hunch that something's wrong can quickly dig into it, see that trend, and then take action like we saw Ruben do today. And I think that's really critical.
Yeah, that's a great point. Thanks, Paul. I feel like a running theme we have going on here is just saving time, and like that and so many other instances, just saving us so much time across the board by leveraging this. So great to see. Ruben, I think we have a kind of a real world example talking about how this actually plays out in the real world. Do you want to walk us through that?
Yeah, absolutely. So just really quickly here, we have a customer testament from Ingalls Market. They implemented 3CLogic, and within 90 days, they were seeing increases in agent performance. So we talked a lot today about reporting, and that reporting ultimately is what can help customer experience managers and supervisors drive that call experience. So if I know what people are calling about, then I can give a better experience to those callers. And I can also increase the agent efficiency by, when they pick up the phone, all of the data that they need is right in front of them in ServiceNow. You're going to reduce that handle time. I'm going to not have to ask the same questions multiple times. Really, it's just a matter of getting, the right people connected to those callers to try and solve those issues and giving them all the tools that they need to do so.
Perfect. Great to see. Yeah. And then I think just zooming out, Ruben, if you want to just share a bit more about how 3CLogic kind of works with ServiceNow in the larger landscape and their role there.
Yeah, so this is an obligatory slide here, guys. So we're a ServiceNow Premier Partner. We're the #1 ServiceNow store integration. So I think we have over 20 5-star reviews. If you look at any other app, it's less than 10. We're built on the AWS cloud. And we have over 10 years of experience doing this all across the world. We're on 5 continents with lots of global 2000 companies, some of which you can see at the bottom of the screen here. So we have lots of experience dealing with pretty much every business vertical, almost every major continent, working on Antarctica, and there's a lot of telephony use cases out there, a lot of really, really interesting different things that people are doing. And so, if anybody is interested in talking to us and hearing more about the kinds of cool things that we've developed, we're obviously, you can reach out to us and we're happy to elaborate more there.
Perfect. And we are going to get to our Q&A in just one moment, but speaking of kind of connecting, I know 3CLogic is going to be at Knowledge 22, which is coming up right around the corner. Reuven, do you want to anything to mention there about our presence there?
Yeah, so we will be at Knowledge. There's 3 events this year, so we will be at all 3 sponsoring. So we'll be at New York, Vegas, and then we will be sharing some materials for the digital experience as well. So even if you're not able to make it in person, guys, we will be sharing a really interesting preview of what we're doing with San Diego for that digital experience as well.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you for that. So I think at this point we can open up the conversation to Q&A. Again, Paul and Reuven, thank you so much for this demo. I think it's really great to see not just these capabilities in action, but then pairing that with the full picture of the value you're getting from them. And I think just showing how much of a game changer this can be for call center supervisors leveraging ServiceNow. So as we move into the Q&A, we'll just share our contact information over on the next slide. And as Reuven mentioned, if you are curious about learning more about how you can take advantage of integrating 3CLogic for ServiceNow or more about these ServiceNow solutions, please reach out at our emails included here. I think we've shown some great universal examples, but really getting into what's possible for your organization, how much you could be saving, getting what that complete picture might look like for you. That's something you can get with a free consultation, super simple, with someone like Reuven or someone from the team showing you everything that's possible. So please do reach out if you're interested. So I think with that, we will get right into the Q&A. And I know we had several questions come in during the time, so thank you for sharing those. And I'll start with the first one for you, Reuven. Question coming in asking, does 3CLogic have their own telephony solution, or is it using Cloud Call Center of ServiceNow? Yeah, I'll pass it over to you.
That's a great question. So we do have our own telephony solution. We can leverage part of that cloud contact center app that ServiceNow has within the store. But we do have our own telephony engine. We're fully based in the cloud. So we are able to sort of be a one-stop shop for the contact center. So, implementing with us, it's a pretty straightforward process. And we do have that app on the store. And so, yeah, we do have our own telephony platform and our own app, for installation and the whole entire implementation process.
Perfect. Thanks. And then this question came in, I think during the demo, I saw it come in, just asking about, I think some of the areas of the demo not being available for standard setup. And so where does that come in? Does it come in with additional licenses? Do you need a pro version? Maybe Paul, that might be a good question for you. Just kind of
I can clarify a little bit. So
sure.
Where we started the demo with those sort of standard reports and dashboards, those are part of ServiceNow, like in our standard edition. So today we were looking at our customer service management module. So that's you might be using different modules, different applications within ServiceNow. Maybe you're using IT service management or our employee workflows products. But what we were looking at today was our customer service management module. Now, each of those different modules have reporting capabilities, but what we looked at today was part of our customer service management module. And we started the demo with the standard reports, which are part of the standard customer service management module. And then when Reuven started to get into the trending and the forecasting, that's performance analytics, and that's part of our pro module. And then at the end, where he was starting to assign specific staff, to have them come in earlier and take calls, like you doing the real workforce optimization. That workforce optimization capabilities are part of our enterprise package. I saw two. I can take these two because I saw them here. For performance analytics, where we saw the trending, you can use. There's a lot of flexibility there, and it's actually pretty easy to do. But you don't have to just do trending on categories. It is pretty much any field. If you're tracking it, then you can start to trend it. So any field, like in this situation, it was on a case, but you can start to look at trends across lots of different fields, not just the category of the fields. And then you can also, with performance analytics, you can set thresholds, we call them. So the question was, could you see a trend and send an alert to a group of people, instead of manually monitoring the dashboard like Reuven Supervisor did? Yeah, so there's thresholds you can set that can trigger a workflow. The great thing is ServiceNow really good at workflows. So we can set thresholds on performance analytics to say, abandon rates above a certain level, or a certain type of high priority cases have been created, that can trigger an alert that then emails a group of people.
Perfect. Yeah, lots of good ways to kind of slice and dice, I think, the categorizing and the filtering. So that's great to get that context. And then I think another question coming in, does 3CLogic also take care of migrating from in-house telephony to their solution, or just a green field? I'm not familiar with the greenfield terminology, but I don't know, Reuven, if that's something that you can speak to.
Yeah, no, happy to answer that. So we have a couple different deployment models. We do have the ability to either integrate in a hybrid cloud. So we take that in-house on-premise telephony solution, and we can integrate with it so that you're still using that media, same minutes, same phone numbers, for example, but you would still get all of the 3CLogic functionality, like that integrated reporting that you saw today. We also have an integrated conversation designer, which powers the IVR, your integrated agent experience. So we can do the total cloud deployment where, we can manage it for you. It's sort of a little bit less headache because it's all managed, in the AWS cloud, the redundancy, really, really high uptimes. But we also support the hybrid model as well, where we go to that on-prem system and we can integrate with that as well.
Perfect. Okay, a couple different options there. That's great. I think that's just about it, unless there's anything else. Paul or Reuven, any kind of final thoughts or any final things that you'd want to cover? Otherwise, we should be good.
To thank everybody for their time and the great questions, and to thank Ruth for the great demonstration.
Thank you, everybody, for joining, and I really appreciate people taking time out of your Tuesday to listen to us talk.
Yes, thank you both. It was great, very insightful. And thank you all for attending. As I said, you can always follow up with us via email or at the website. And yeah, we'll look forward to hearing from you. Thanks again, and we'll see you soon.